Today we are going to see how was the calendar invented. The origin of the calendar is a very long history. Every country around the world followed the different calendar practices. How was the calendar invented? The calendar. The purpose of the calendar is to reckon past or future time, to show how many days until a certain event takes place, the harvest or a religious festival, or how long since something important happened. The earliest calendars must have been strongly influenced by the geographical location of the people who made them. In colder countries, the concept of the year was determined by the seasons, specifically by the end of winter. But in warmer countries, where the seasons are less pronounced, the moon became the basic unit for time reckoning. An old Jewish book says that the moon was created for the counting of the days. Most of the oldest calendars were lunar calendars, based on the time interval from one new moon to the next, a so-called lunation. But even in a warm climate there are annual events that pay no attention to the phases of the moon. In some areas it was a rainy season. In Egypt it was the annual flooding of the Nile River. The calendar had to account for these yearly events as well. A calendar is a system of organizing days for social, religious, commercial, or administrative purposes. This is done by giving names to periods of time, typically days, weeks, months, and years. A date is the designation of a single specific day within such a system. A calendar is also a physical record of such a system. A calendar can also mean a list of planned events, such as a court calendar, or a partly or fully chronological list of documents, such as a calendar of wills. Periods in a calendar are usually, though not necessarily, synchronized with the cycle of the sun or the moon. The most common type of pre-modern calendar was the lunisolar calendar, a lunar calendar that occasionally adds one intercalary month to remain synchronized with the solar year over the long term. The course of the sun and the moon are the most salient natural, regularly recurring events useful for timekeeping. Thus in pre-modern societies worldwide, lunation and the year were most commonly used as time units. Nevertheless, the Roman calendar contained remnants of a very ancient pre-Etruscan 10-month solar year. The first recorded physical calendars, dependent on the development of writing in the ancient Near East, are the Bronze Age Egyptian and Sumerian calendars. A large number of ancient Near East calendar systems, based on the Babylonian calendar, date from the Iron Age, among them the calendar system of the Persian Empire, which in turn gave rise to the Zoroastrian calendar and the Hebrew calendar. A great number of Hellenic calendars developed in classical Greece, and in the Hellenistic period, gave rise to both the ancient Roman calendar and to various Hindu calendars. Calendars in antiquity were lunisolar, depending on the introduction of intercalary months to align the solar and the lunar years. This was mostly based on observation, but there may have been early attempts to model the pattern of intercalation algorithmically, as evidenced in the fragmentary 2nd century Carligny calendar. The Roman calendar was reformed by Julius Caesar in 46 BC. The Julian calendar was no longer dependent on the observation of the new moon, but simply followed an algorithm of introducing a leap day every 4 years. This created a dissociation of the calendar month from the lunation. The Islamic calendar is based on the prohibition of intercalation by Muhammad, in Islamic tradition dated to a sermon held on 9th Dhul-Hijjah 10, Julian date. The 6th of March 632. This resulted in an observation-based lunar calendar that shifts relative to the seasons of the solar year. What calendar do we currently use? The Gregorian calendar is the most widely used calendar in the world today. It is the calendar used in the international standard for representation of dates and times. It is a solar calendar, based on a 365-day common year divided into 12 months of irregular lengths. Gregorian calendar. It is named after Pope Gregory XIII, who introduced it in October 1582. How the Gregorian calendar saved the seasons. The fundamental problem that anyone making a calendar has to grapple with is the fact that it takes just a shade more than 365 days for Earth to make a full trip around the sun. More precisely, it takes 365.24219 days. So if you construct a calendar with only 365 days, the seasons will fall ever so slowly out of whack with the months. By the 1570s, those slight differences had added up. The calendar was now out of sync with the solar year by about 10 days. So, in 1577, Pope Gregory XIII appointed a commission, led by physician Aloysius Lilius and astronomer Christopher Clavius, to solve the problem. It took them 5 years, but they came up with a fix. First, let's just eliminate those extra 10 days, and get back on schedule. Gone. Next, let's tweak the system of leap years. We'll have leap years every 4 years, except on centennial years, that aren't divisible by 400. So there's a leap year in 2000, but not in 1900 or 1800 or 1700. This changed the length of the average year to 365.2425 days. Still not perfect, but close enough. Gregory also moved the new year from March 25th to January 1st. Since he was Pope, Gregory was able to persuade Catholic countries like Italy, Spain, and Portugal to adopt the new calendar immediately. But Protestant countries were wary of this new popish initiative, seeing it as a suspicious Catholic intrusion. Great Britain and the American colonies didn't actually switch over until 1752. When they finally did, they had to erase 11 days. Sweden only made the change in 1753. Turkey was split between the Gregorian and Islamic calendars until 1917. Nowadays, the Gregorian calendar has largely conquered the world, and most countries now follow it for coordination purposes. Saudi Arabia just switched over on 2016 from the Islamic calendar, since the elimination of 11 days would help save money on civil servant pay for the budget-crunched kingdom. But countries don't always follow the Gregorian schedule to celebrate New Year's. That holiday is often based on lunar cycles and doesn't necessarily fall on January 1st. The Persian New Year in Iran, for instance, is determined by the northern hemisphere's vernal equinox. Every country follows the same calendar. Yes or no? No. Most countries follow the Gregorian calendar, including the United States. But others have their own religious calendars. Iran, Afghanistan, and Nepal are countries that follow their own religious calendar. Today, August 23rd is the 235th day of the year in the Gregorian calendar. 130 days remain until the end of the year. We have been using the Gregorian calendar for 438 years. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe. Thank you.